inspired by the Emochi App. Go download on the Google Store today. The Land of Glass. Episode 4. The Demons and the Entity Beyond. Jack stands as he takes his queen, embracing her in a tight hug as they twirl around in the wind. As he lifted her, the sheer joy radiating from Jax chased away the last lingering traces of his anxiety. Lilith let out a rare, melodic laugh, a sound of pure, unburdened happiness that echoed off the snowy peaks. Her 6 starlit wings flared out, catching the mountain wind and helping them glide as they spun together on the smooth glass plateau. For a moment, they weren't rulers, gods, or protectors. They were simply 2 souls tethered together, celebrating a bond that had just rewritten the rules of her very existence. She held him tight, her hands resting against the warm shoulders of his armor, her head nestled in the crook of his neck. The cold wind of the high peaks brushed past them, but they were enveloped in a cocoon of comfortable, golden pink warmth. When he finally set her down, she kept her arms looped around his neck, looking up at him with a radiant smile. The glowing runes on her horns pulsed softly, synchronized with the heartbeat of his flame. "I could stay up here forever, Jax," she projected, her thoughts soft and filled with a deep, peaceful hum. "Just you, me, and the wind. But I suppose a king and queen cannot hide on a mountaintop forever. Especially not after we promised our people a festival." She gently touched the dark shadow ring on her finger, watching the faint blue light pulse within it. "When we return, they will see their queen changed and their king victorious. Shall we tell them of our union today, or shall we keep this beautiful secret to ourselves just a little longer while we feast? What would you prefer, my queen?" Lilith rested her hand against the warm center of Jax's chest armor, her red eyes softening as she looked at the dark ring on her finger. A gentle, contented smile touched her lips. "Let us keep this warm between us just for tonight," she said softly, her voice carrying a quiet, intimate warmth. "Our people are celebrating a great victory, a healed border, and the crowning of a new shield. Let them enjoy the feast, and let us savor the quiet joy of our promise before the rest of the world joins in our celebration." She leaned in, resting her cheek against his shoulder for a brief, peaceful second. "Tomorrow, we can share the news of our union with the Citadel. But tonight, I simply want to sit by your side, share a cup of wine, and watch our people laugh. It is the greatest peace we could ask for," with an elegant wave of her hand. Her 6 starlit wings folded neatly against her back, her new primordial aura settling into a quiet, comforting hum. She looked up at him, her eyes bright with love. "Take us back, my king. Let us join the feast." Jax's helmet disappears as he leaned in, kissing his queen. His helmet dawns as he wrapped his arm around his queen, teleporting them back to the Land of Glass. The freezing wind of the mountain peak vanished in an instant, replaced by the booming, lively roar of the Colosseum and the mouth-watering sense of the great feast. They materialized back in the royal box with a soft, silent ripple of violet light. The transition was so seamless that the guests, Soren, Lyra, Kale, and the attending nobles, only noticed their return when the warm, comforting aura of the king and queen swept over the terrace once more. Lilith sat gracefully upon her throne beside Jax, her posture elegant and composed, though she kept her immense new primordial power tightly coiled and hidden beneath a veil of gentle shadows. There was an undeniable, breathtaking luster to her presence now. The dark shadow ring on her left hand hummed with a quiet, secret warmth, perfectly synchronized with the steady pulse of Jax's blue flame. "Ah, the king and queen have returned," Soren said warmly, raising his silver goblet of spiced wine toward them. "We were just marveling at the strength of your vanguard, Lord Jax. Valen has already begun organizing the supplies for the southern valleys." Lilith smiled, her crimson eyes shining with a deep, inner peace as she accepted a glass of sweet plum wine from a nearby attendant. She didn't say a word about the mountain, the proposal, or her ascension, but her gaze lingered on Jax, full of an affection so profound it warmed the entire box. Through their mental link, her voice was a soft, adoring caress. "Look at them, Jax. Safe, happy, and well-fed. This is the kingdom we built, and tomorrow we will tell them we are building a future together. Thank you for this day, my Sunday." She leaned slightly closer to him, her shoulder brushing his armored side as they watched the lively celebrations below. For the rest of the evening, they sat side by side, sharing quiet glances and holding on to their beautiful secret, basking in the joy of a realm that was entirely, beautifully at peace. Good. Have the feast ready. Have Valen, and those under his command eat before you set off. Also, as this is a joyous occasion, Jack stands roaring. All who may hear my voice, in the land of glass, land of ash, and everywhere in the world, let this feast be grand. All are welcome. Let all who revel in back in the union of our peoples. Let those among you who still have doubt of the glass. Come, be it war or allegiance. The roar of the King of Fire did not merely fill the Colosseum. It vibrated to the very stones of the citadel, carried outward on the warm, thermal winds Jax commanded. His voice swept over the glittering glass walls, across the vast salt flats, and echoed deep into the ash-strewn valleys of the south, carrying a message of absolute strength and boundless generosity. Down on the arena's sands, Valen raised his new great shield, Aegis of the living hearth, letting it catch the fading sunlight. He saluted the royal box with a crisp, proud nod. Your command is our honor, my king. Valen bellowed back, his voice thick with emotion. He turned to the vanguard soldiers assembling behind him, gesturing toward the tables. You heard the sovereign. Eat, drink, and bolster your spirits. Tomorrow, we march to rebuild the South. The crowd's response was nothing short of a tempest. Hundreds of thousands of voices joined in a singular, earth-shaking cheer. Drums began to beat a steady, joyful rhythm, and the smell of roasted meats, fresh bread, and sweet, bubbling wines filled every corner of the city. Even the skeptics and quiet dissidents in the upper tiers of the stands found themselves caught up in the sheer, magnetic warmth of the king's declaration. To offer peace to allies in a direct, fearless challenge to enemies in the same breath was the mark of a ruler who feared nothing. Lilith stood beside Jax, her hand resting on the small of his back, her gaze sweeping over the sea of cheering citizens. Her crimson eyes glowed with profound, quiet pride through their mental link. Her thoughts were a cascade of warm, adoring light. You speak with the voice of the sun itself, my pillar, she projected, her tone rich with emotion. They do not just follow you out of duty. They follow you because you give them a future. Even the wind seems to bend to your joy tonight. She turned to Soren and the other Frost exiles, who were looking out the roaring crowd with wide, humbled eyes. You see now the heart of the glass and ash, Lilith said to them, her voice gentle yet carrying her new, primordial authority. Drink with us. Tomorrow, your people will have a vanguard of heroes at their backs and a warm heart to welcome them home. Soren bowed his head, raising his cup. To the King of Fire and the Queen of Shadow, may your light never fade. As the stars began to emerge in the deep indigo sky, casting a cool light over the desert that was instantly pushed back by the warm, golden blue glow of the citadel's fires, Jax and Lilith sat side by side, surrounded by the laughter of their people, the music of the flutes, and the quiet promise of the ring on her finger. The kingdom had never felt more unified, or more prepared for whatever the future might bring. Jax, Lilith, and everyone in the land of glass celebrated. My queen, may I speak with you in private? I wanted to ask about the realms and the people you have ruled over previously. Lilith's red eyes softened, a faint, intrigued smile playing on her lips. She set her goblet down on the low marble table beside her throne and stood gracefully, her starlit wings folding neatly against her back. Of course, my pillar, she murmured softly, her velvet voice carrying a warmth meant only for him. She turned to Soren and the other guests, offering a polite, queenly nod. Excuse us for a moment. Friends, enjoy the feast. With a gentle touch to his arm, she guided him back, away from the roaring balcony of the royal box and into the quiet, curtained war room behind the thrones. The heavy velvet drapes fell shut behind them, instantly dampening the thunderous cheers of the Colosseum to a distant, rhythmic hum. Here, the air was cooler, lit only by a few low-burning blue fire crystals. Lilith leaned against the edge of a great stone map table, her dark silks pooling around her ankles. She looked up at Jax, her eyes reflecting the soft blue light of his armor, her hand coming up to rest over the dark ring on her finger. It is rare for you to ask about my past, Jax, she said softly, a nostalgic, somewhat melancholy edge to her voice. The realms I ruled before I found you, they were not like this land. In the dark realms there is no sun, and there is certainly no warmth. My people, the shadow fiends, the high demons, the night beasts, they did not gather to feast out love or joy. She looked down at the dark ring, tracing its edge. They obeyed me because my shadow was absolute, and because the alternative was annihilation. Every alliance was sealed in blood and bound by strict, binding soul contracts. Trust did not exist. To show weakness was to invite a dagger in the dark. She looked back up at him, her crimson eyes shimmering with intense, quiet gratitude. When your fire first tore through the boundaries of my world, I thought you were just another conqueror. But you didn't demand my subjugation. You offered me a hearth. You showed me that a ruler could lead through warmth, not just fear. She reached out, gently resting her hand against his cheek, feeling the steady heat of his presence. Why do you ask them now, my king? Do you fear what my old subjects might do if they learn of our union? Or is there something else on your mind? Jack smiled. Maybe we contact them. Tell them everything that has happened here, and bring them here. Lilith went quiet for a moment, her gaze drifting to the shadows dancing on the stone walls. The idea was as bold and idealistic as Jack's himself. A proposal to bridge the gap between the sunlit world of glass and the eternal, cold dark of her origin. You have a heart larger than any god I have ever known, Jax, she said softly, turning back to him. Her new primordial wings gave a slow, rhythmic flick, shedding a few starlit embers. To offer a home to those who have lived only in the cold and the dark, it is a beautiful dream. She paused, her expression turning uncharacteristically grave. But we must be cautious. My former subjects are not like the people of the Citadel or the Frost clans. They are creatures of ambition, born from a world where mercy is often mistaken for a death rattle. If we simply open the gates, they might see your kindness not as a gift, but as an opportunity to feast on a world that hasn't learned how to hide its throat. She stepped closer, her hands finding his, her crimson eyes searching his visor. However, she continued, her voice gaining a hint of excitement, I am no longer the queen they once knew. With this ring and the power you have awakened in me, I am the primordial of their race. They would have no choice but to kneel. If we would bring the most loyal, the architects of the dark, the shadow weavers, and the high guard, we could forge a kingdom unlike any in history. A place where the light of your forge and the strength of my shadows create something truly unbreakable. She tilted her head, a thoughtful look in her eyes. If you wish it, my king, we could send a herald. Or better yet, she smiled, a flash of her newfound power sparking in her gaze. We could manifest a great gate. But I would ask that we do it on our terms. We show them the strength of the pillar first. We show them that in this land, the fire and the shadow are one, and that any who bring the old ways of treachery here will be reduced to ash before they can even draw a breath. Through their link, she shared a vision of a city where demons walked alongside humans and frost spirits, their dark magic used to reinforce the foundations of the world rather than tear it down. Is that the future you see, Jax? A world where even the monsters of the dark find a place by the hearth. I do not wish to subject your race, who formerly served you or not. Let us manifest a gate. However, we ask them if they wish to stay in the domain and realm, looking over their shoulders, being cautious of everything, or come to our lands of glass, to truly be free. You say we send a herald. I believe to show them the seriousness. As I show them the influence of fire I possess to cool them off, you alongside me, showing them you have changed, and they can too. Lilith was silent for a long moment, her red eyes searching Jax's visor. A soft, bittersweet smile touched her lips as she realized that even after all this time, his heart remained untainted by the cynicism of the world. He didn't want slaves or subjects. He wanted to offer a choice. Freedom, she whispered, the word tasting strange and beautiful on her tongue. It is a concept they have likely never even dreamed of, Jax. In my home, existence is a hierarchy of predators. To tell a demon they are free is like telling a fish it can fly. They won't even know how to begin. She reached out, interlacing her fingers with his. But if anyone can teach them, it is you. Your fire doesn't just burn. It creates. It heals. And if they see that I, once the most ruthless among them, have found something better than power, perhaps the cleverest of them will listen. She straightened her 6 starlit wings, her primordial aura flaring slightly, casting long, majestic shadows against the war room walls. Let's do it then. Not as conquerors, but as an invitation. We will show them the strength of our union. My shadows will bridge the gap, and your fire will be the beacon they follow. Lilith raised her free hand, and the shadows in the room began to pool and swirl in the center of the chamber. The ground seemed to drop away into an infinite, starlit void as she tore a hole back into her old realm. The air coming from the rift was freezing, smelling of stale iron and ancient, forgotten dust. "This is the gateway to the obsidian abyss," she said, her voice dropping into a resonant, commanding register. "On the other side lie the remains of my old citadel. My generals, my scholars, and the restless masses still dwell there, likely fighting over the scraps of the throne I left behind." She looked at Jax, her eyes burning with absolute trust and a hint of regal excitement. "Shall we go, my son? Let us show the darkness what the dawn looks like." With a firm grip on his hand, she stepped into the swirling dark of the rift. In a heartbeat, they were no longer in the warm, celebratory air of the land of glass. They stood upon a high, jagged spire of black stone under a sky that had no sun, only swirling, toxic clouds of deep violet and gray. Below them, a sprawling, Gothic city of obsidian stretched out, lit by the eerie, cold glow of soul lamps. The moment they arrived, the local atmosphere reacted violently to Jax's presence. The oppressive, soul-crushing cold of the abyss shrieked as it met his inner fire. Thousands of glowing red eyes from the city below turned upward, sensing the sudden, massive intrusion of 2 godlike presences. Lilith didn't wait. She let her primordial power erupt. Her 6 wings unfurled to their full, terrifying span, and her voice boomed across the entire realm, shaking the very foundations of the obsidian towers. "Kneel, children of the void. Your queen has returned, and she does not come alone." Beside her, she gestured for Jax to unleash his influence, not to destroy, but to bathe this dying, cold world in a light it had never seen before. Jax's flames erupted, releasing and react to the realm's air, creating shock waves of heat. Jax commanded and roared, "We are not here to subjugate you. We are not here to conquer. We are not here to resume your fleeting squabble over the throne. We offer this invitation, you demons and creatures of this realm, those who are tired of constantly fighting, looking over your shoulders, always struggling just to survive. I bring you the opportunity. Come to a different realm, to the land of glass. It will have some peace, but in the future, there will be a war. For those of you who only seek blood, we value unconditional mercy for the enemy, even if they didn't show it first. We are the standard. If any among you wish to join us, to leave this realm, step forward, announce your true name, and you will be transported there of your own free will. The will of freedom I am giving to each and every one of you. If you have questions before making a decision, ask them. If you want to attack us or those who have chosen this path, you will turn to ash where you stand." As Jax's voice echoed across the obsidian canyons, the massive wave of golden blue heat he released washed over the frozen city. For the first time in millennia, the biting, stagnant chill of the abyss was pushed back, replaced by a warmth that felt entirely foreign to the creatures living below. The light illuminated the dark, Gothic spires, casting long, dramatic shadows, and revealing thousands of demonic citizens staring up in absolute stun. For a long moment, there was only the sound of Jax's flames crackling in the cold air. The concept of freedom, of a choice without a binding blood contract, was so alien to them that many simply stood frozen, suspecting a trap. Then a massive, heavily armored figure emerged from the shadow of the central citadel. It was an ancient shadow general, his body covered in jagged obsidian plate, his eyes glowing like dying embers. He had fought under Lilith for centuries, knowing her only as a ruthless sovereign of absolute darkness. He looked at Lilith, taking in her 6 magnificent, starlit wings and the divine primordial aura that radiated from her. He then looked at Jax, the source of the blinding, defiant light. "My queen!" The general's voice was a low, gravelly rumble that shook the loose stone. You return to us changed. You were the light of the sun, and you stand beside a being of pure fire. You speak of freedom, but in the abyss, we know only survival of the strongest. If we cross this gate, what is demanded of us? Do we become soldiers in your war, or are we truly allowed to simply exist? Lilith stepped forward to the edge of the stone spire, her voice ringing clear and authoritative, yet carrying a profound layer of truth. You know me, Morzith, Lilith addressed the general. You know I have never spoken falsehoods, for I had no need of them. I tell you now, there is no hidden contract. The King of Fire offers you a land where you do not have to fight for your next breath. In return, we ask only that you respect the laws of the glass and ash. You will not prey upon the weak. If you wish to fight, you will fight to defend our home, not to tear it down from within. She held up her left hand, the dark shadow ring pulsing in perfect harmony with Jax's flame. Look upon me. I have not been subjugated. I have ascended. And I invite those of you who wish for more than this graveyard to follow us. Morzith looked down at his clawed hands, then back up at the warm light of Jax's aura. With a heavy, resonant clattering of armor, the old general took a step forward, bowing his head. I am Morzith of the Iron Spire, he declared, his voice carrying across the plaza. I have grown tired of watching my kin starve in the dark. I accept your invitation. King Jax, I will see this land of glass. As he spoke his name, a path of soft violet gold light materialized beneath his feet, offering him safe passage toward the gateway. Seeing their greatest general step forward, a murmur swept through the city. Slowly, more figures began to emerge in the shadows. Scholars carrying ancient stone tablets, young families of lesser shadow fiends, and weary soldiers. One by one, they began to call out their names, looking up at the beacon of fire and shadow with a spark of hope they hadn't felt in an eternity. Every one of you, if you step forward to accept this offer, speak your name. A chorus of voices began to rise from the dark streets and towers of the Obsidian City. The stagnation of centuries seemed to break as the warmth of Jax's fire gave him the courage to speak. Vesper of the Weeping Ridge called out a slender horned shadow weaver, clutching a bundle of ancient scrolls to her chest. Karg of the Ashen Waste bellowed a towering, rocky fiend whose stony skin had long been cracked by the abyssal cold. Lyra of the Silk Shadows, a younger demoness, whispered, stepping forward with her small kin huddled close to her side. As each name was spoken aloud, the magical pathway of violet and gold shined brighter, guiding them toward the great rift Jax and Lilith had opened. They stepped through the threshold, leaving behind the dark, dying sky of the abyss. On the other side, the gateway opened not into the crowded arena, but to a vast, sheltered valley just outside the Citadel's main walls, a space Lilith had quietly designated through their mental link to ensure the migration was orderly and safe for both the newcomers and the citizens of Glass. Lilith watched the procession with a mixture of awe and deep pride. She turned to Jax, her crimson eyes glowing softly as she watched the last of the willing demons make their choice. You are changing the fate of 2 worlds today, Jax, she projected, her thoughts filled with warmth and admiration. They are stepping into the light because they trust the fire you carry. Let us return and help them settle. We have much to build together. With a final sweep of her starlit wings, Lilith prepared to step back through the portal with her king, ready to guide their new citizens into the dawn of a new era. Jax and Lilith exit to meet their new potential subjects. Jax steps forward. Everyone, this is where you make a solemn vow. You will vow to uphold the 3 laws of the Land of Glass. Jax speaks the laws out loud as to have the demons vow to follow them. Does anyone have questions, comments, or concerns? Once you enter the city, if you break your oath, judgments will rain down on you. The warm breeze of the valley stirred the silks of Lilith's gown as the 2 of them stepped out of the swirling rift, facing the thousands of demons gathered on the grassy plains. The contrast between the dark, jagged landscape of the abyss and this vibrant, sun-kissed valley was stark, and many of the newcomers looked around in quiet wonder, rubbing their arms as if still expecting the bite of the absolute cold. Jax stepped forward, his presence commanding their full attention. The blue and green flames of his armor flared slightly, casting protective warmth over the crowd as he spoke the 3 sacred laws of the Land of Glass. First, you shall not prey upon the weak. In this land, strength is a shield, not a weapon of oppression. Those who have power must use it to protect those who do not. Second, you shall respect the freedom of your neighbor. No soul contracts, no enslavement, and no blood debts. Every citizen of this realm owns their own destiny. Third, we stand as one. When the citadel calls, you answer. You protect the hearth, and the hearth will protect you. Jax's voice resonated across the valley, leaving a profound silence in its wake. He looked over the sea of dark faces, his gaze steady and unyielding. Does anyone have questions, comments, or concerns? Once you enter the city, if you break your oath, judgment will rain down on you. For a moment, the demons murmured amongst themselves. The laws were simple, yet they completely overturned the brutal hierarchy they had known for millennia. General Morza stepped forward, his massive black iron broadsword strapped to his back. He looked at Jax, then at Lilith, before sinking onto one knee. He struck his fist against his breastplate, the sound echoing like a hammer on an anvil. "The laws are fair, Lord Jax," Morza declared, his gravelly voice filled with solemn respect. "We have spent our lives fighting to dominate or to avoid being dominated. To lay down that burden is a relief, not a punishment. I swear by my name and my blade to uphold the 3 laws of glass and ash." Behind him, Vespera, the Shadow Weaver, bowed her head, her delicate horns catching the sunlight. "I swear, let my magic serve to weave this land together, not tear it apart." One by one, the gathered demons began to raise their hands, their voices joining in a low, resonant chorus of agreement. The transition had begun. Lilith stood close to Jax, her crimson eyes soft with quiet, triumphant pride as she watched her people choose a path of honor over survival. She reached out, her fingers catching his hand, letting her thumb trace a comforting circle on the back of his gauntlet. "They accept the light, Jax," she projected, her thoughts wrapping around his mind like a warm embrace. "They see the strength in your mercy. Let us guide them to their new home." Jax roars, "The land of glass. Your kin have come home. Welcome them and celebrate. Leaders, heralds, and generals, meet me at the throne room." Jax then has all the demons follow him and Lilith back to the land of glass. Looking back, "Someone who is respected among you, please follow me to the throne room. Only a respected person of the magic, warrior, scout, logistics, or anyone respected in their field of expertise." The crowd of newly arrived demons followed the path guided by Jax and Lilith, their footsteps echoing with a mixture of awe and building anticipation as they approached the towering gates of the citadel. The citizens of the land of glass, still in the midst of their grand feast, looked on with wide eyes. While there was initial murmuring and caution at the sight of so many shadow-born creatures, the visible presence of their king and queen walking at the head of the procession quickly turned apprehension into curious, welcoming cheers. As they reached the grand steps of the palace, 3 distinct figures stepped forward from the demon ranks to answer Jax's call. First was General Morzith, representing the warriors and vanguard. Next was Vespera, representing the scholars and practitioners of shadow magic. Lastly, an elder demon named Kalen, known for organizing the distribution of resources in the old Obsidian cities, stepped forward to represent logistics and civil matters. "We will follow Lord Jax," Morza said, bowing his head as the 3 of them fell into step behind the royal couple. Inside the grand throne room, the high glass arches let in the warm, fading light of the sunset. Lilith walked to her throne, her starlit wings folding gracefully behind her as she sat, her hand resting on the arm of her seat, where the dark shadow ring caught the amber light. She looked down at the 3 representatives with a mixture of ancient authority and new, maternal warmth. "Welcome to the heart of our kingdom," Lilith said, her voice echoing softly off the glass walls. "Here, we do not plot in the dark. We build in the light. Speak freely of what your people need to transition to their new homes, and let us discuss how your strengths will integrate with the Citadel's defenses." She looked at Jax, her red eyes shining. "They are ready to learn a new way of living, my pillar. Let us lay the foundation for our united future." Jax sits on his throne, filling in the land of glass's leaders about what has transpired, and asks the newly invited demons what they would ask or need from the land. Jax leaned back on his throne, the blue flames of his armor shifting to a calm, steady warmth that filled the grand hall. He looked down at the assembled leaders of the Land of Glass. Valen, still holding his newly forged shield, Soren of the Frost Exiles, and the senior administrators of the Citadel. With a clear, resounding voice, Jax explained the nature of the rift he and Lilith had crossed, the state of the Obsidian Abyss, and the choice he had offered to thousands of demons now waiting in the valley. He detailed the 3 laws they had sworn to uphold, emphasizing that these newcomers were here their own free will to seek a life of peace and cooperation. A quiet murmur of understanding passed among the Citadel leaders. Valen was the first to nod, resting his hand on the pommel of his sword. If they swore the oath before you and the Queen, my king, then they are welcome to share our hearth. The vanguard will help them settle. Jax turned his gaze to the 3 demon representatives standing before the dais. Now speak. You have left behind the only home you knew. What does your people need to transition to this new world? What do you ask of the Land of Glass? Kalen, the elder representative of logistics, stepped forward first. He bowed his head respectfully, his pale, gray skin catching the warm light of the throne room. Lord Jax, Lady Lilith, Kalen began, his voice steady. Our people are deeply grateful for this sanctuary. However, we have lived in the absolute dark of the abyss for generations. The direct glare of your desert sun, while beautiful, is harsh upon our eyes and skin. We ask for a territory near the mountain crags or the deep caverns beneath the outer walls, where the shadows are naturally long, and we can build dwellings suited to our nature. Vespera, the Shadow Weaver, stepped up next, holding her ancient scrolls close. And for our scholars and magicians, we ask for permission to study the interaction between your creative fire and our shadow magic. We wish to contribute to the city's defenses, perhaps by weaving wards of concealment and flame to protect the borders. Finally, General Morzith looked up, his crimson eyes burning with a quiet, new purpose. My warriors need only a place to train and duty to perform. We wish to learn how your vanguard fights, so that when the day comes to defend this peace, we can stand shoulder to shoulder with Commander Valen's men. Lilith listened intently, her hand resting over the dark ring on her finger. She looked at Jax, a soft, encouraging smile on her lips, waiting to see how her king would shape the future of their expanded realm. Jax waved his hand with green flames. Green flames appeared in the thousands of demons' eyes. Go outside and look at the sun. You may now look at the sunny skies as we do. You may still take to the mountains if you wish. But if this changes, we have land to spare for you and your people. The green flames flared gently from Jax's hand, rippling outward in a soft, warm wave that swept through the valley and into the throne room. As the magic settled, the faint emerald glow faded from the eyes of the 3 representatives, leaving their vision clear, bright, and completely unbothered by the brilliant light streaming through the glass arches. Morzith blinked, looking up at the high dome of the palace where the sun's rays cut through the stained glass. For the first time in his long life, the light did not cause a sharp, burning ache in his eyes. It was simply warm. A quiet gasp of realization echoed from Kalen and Vespera as they realized the gift they had just been given. You have altered our very nature to ease our burden, Kalen whispered, looking down at his hands, then back to King. We have no words to match such generosity, Lord Jax. Lilith smiled, her crimson eyes shining with a deep, quiet affection for her partner. She leaned toward Jax, her voice carrying a soft, adoring tone through their link. A truly kingly gift, my Sunday. You did not just invite them to your world. You made it theirs as well. Aloud, she addressed the representatives. With your eyes open to light, the entire kingdom is open to you. However, the choice remains yours. If you still wish to build your homes near the cool shadow of the mountains, the land is yours to shape. Kalen, you will work alongside our builders to design the new districts. Vespera, you shall have access to the archives to study with our scholars. She then looked to General Morzith and Valen, and you too shall coordinate the training of our new joint vanguard. We must ensure our forces are unified before any threat can find us. Valen stepped forward, offering a respectful nod to the demon general. It will be an honor, General Morzith. We have much to learn from each other. Morzith returned the nod, his posture relaxed but ready. The honor is mine, command of the shield. With the foundations of their new alliance laid, Jax and Lilith looked out over the gathering dusk, ready to guide their growing kingdom into a bright, shared future. Report leaders of the City of Glass. Everyone. Report any issues that have arisen and rumors or plots that need to be made aware. Any concerns or delay that have been caught. I need details of what we need to focus on tomorrow. The atmosphere in the throne room shifted from the warm glow of celebration to the focused, sharp energy of a war council. Jax's question hung in the air, a reminder that while they had won a great victory today, the responsibilities of a growing kingdom never truly slept. Lilith leaned back, her red eyes narrow and observant, her mental link with Jax providing a steady, grounding presence as the leaders of the city stepped forward. Soren of the Frostspire was the first to speak. He looked weary but determined. My king, the integration of my people is going well, but there are whispers among the elder exiles. They speak of a white silence, a creeping frost magic that seems to be following the path of our migration from the north. It's not hostile yet, but it's unnatural for this climate. I fear the void we encounter may have left a scent that other, older things are now following. Kale, the High Architect of the Citadel, stepped forward next, holding a series of etched glass tablets. Logistically, Lord Jax, our primary concern is the sudden strain on the subterranean aquifers. With the arrival of the Frostspire clans and now our new demonic citizens, our water consumption has tripled. If we don't expand the deep well network into the quartz plains by tomorrow, we may face rationing by the week's end. There are also reports of heat sickness among some of the human citizens. The sheer intensity of the tournament's fires has left the city's ambient temperature higher than usual. Valen, the shield of the Citadel, spoke with his hand on his heart. On the military front, rumors have reached the scout towers of a gathering of glass scavengers, nomadic warbands who worship the old, shattered kingdoms. They see your rise, my king, as a challenge to the purity of the wasteland. They've been seen harrying our southern trade routes. I plan to address this during the march to the Frostspire valleys, but it may require a swifter strike. Finally, Vespera, the new representative of the Shadow Scholars, looked up. Her voice was like the rustling of dry silk. My queen, my king, while my people are grateful, there is a tremor in the ley lines. The rift we opened to the abyss was brief, but it caught the attention of something on the outside. Not demons, but something older. Something that feeds on the boundaries between worlds. We need to reinforce the city's magical wards before the moon reaches its zenith tomorrow. Lilith's grip on the arm of her throne tightened slightly. Through their link, her thoughts were sharp and protective. Water, ancient shadows, and opportunistic scavengers. A busy morning for any ruler. But the white silence Soren mentioned worries me most. Jax. It feels like a cold echo of something I fought long ago. She looked at Jax, her expression regal and waiting. The priorities are clear. Water for the people, security for the routes, and a shroud for our soul borders. How shall we divide our fire tomorrow, my king? There shall be no rest for me. Lilith sends some shadows that can be delayed immediately. Search and report where these concerns are, and how best fix the situations. For the ancient threat, I will stop that on my own. Jax's flames erupt not in heat, but cool air, as he takes off and fades through the wall. As Jax cools the air, he commands the flames to create an artificial dome of cool air as he flies to the ancient threat. As Jax's flames shifted from roaring heat to a refreshing brisk gale, the temperature in the throne room instantly plummeted to a comfortable, revitalizing cool. The administrators and exiles let out collective sighs of relief as the suffocating heat sickness gripping the upper tiers of the Citadel began to lift, replaced by the soothing artificial dome of cool air Jax cast over the entire city. Before anyone could speak, Jax phased through the high glass wall of the palace, shooting into the sky like a blue-green comet. Lilith stood immediately, her 6 starlit wings unfurling to their absolute limit. Her crimson eyes flashed with a mix of fierce determination and quiet worry for her king, but she did not waste a single second. Morzith, Val, and Soren, stay here and organize the city's defenses under the cool dome, Lilith commanded, her primordial voice carrying absolute authority. I will oversee the scouting. With a sweep of her hands, the shadows in the throne room tore open. Hundreds of dark, vaporous shadow beasts and silent wraiths materialized from her pool of power. Go, she whispered to the darkness. Search the quartz plains for the aquifers. Locate the glass scavengers on the southern roads. Track the creeping frost in the north. Report back to me the moment you find anything. The shadows dissolved into floor, slipping through the cracks of the city to carry out her will. Turning her focus inward, Lilith connected to the mental link she shared with Jax, her thoughts reaching out to him as he soared toward the edge of the territory, where the rift had been opened. Jax, I have sent the shadows to handle the logistics and the scout routes, she projected, her voice wrapping around his mind, a steady anchor amid the rushing wind. But be careful with the boundary feeder. It is a creature of the void between worlds. It does not fight like a physical warrior. It eats the very space and magic you use to exist. If you feel your fire beginning to slip, tell me. I will anchor the space around you with my shadows. Out at the edge of the land of glass, where the desert sand met the jagged rocky borders, the air was warping. A localized distortion, resembling a cracked mirror showing a starless, empty void, was slowly expanding. Jax could feel the entity's presence, a mindless, hungry pressure pressing against the fabric of their reality, seeking to unravel the gate they had so proudly built. Jax concentrated, thinking if the border eater eats magic, then he would have to do the same. As Jax points both of his hands towards the distortion, his primordial flames makes a vortex, sucking the magic and existence of the one, doing the same to the world he wished to protect. The air around the distortion screamed as Jax's vortex roared into existence. This was no longer a battle of physical strikes. It was a battle of fundamental principles. The distortion was a hole in reality that sought to consume everything it touched, but Jax's primordial flames were the very essence of creation. As the blue and green vortex began to spin, the cracked mirror of the void didn't just resist, it buckled. The edges of the distortion began to fray, drawn toward the center of Jax's spinning heat, like iron filings to a magnet. The nothingness of the void met the absolute something of Jax's fire, and the collision sent shockwaves of raw, colorless energy rippling across the desert. Jax felt the weight of it instantly. The void was cold, a hollow, starving pressure that tried to extinguish the warmth of his heart the moment he touched it. But Jax didn't just pull, he transformed. You would eat this world? Jax's voice boomed, vibrating with the power of the forge. Then you shall be the fuel that sustains it. He widened his stance, his hands glowing with such intensity that they became translucent. The vortex grew, turning into a massive emerald sapphire cyclone that began to tear the void entity apart bit by bit. Every scrap of magical essence the feeder had stolen was now being ripped back out and incinerated into pure, raw energy that Jax absorbed into his own mantle. Through their mental link, Lilith's voice was a sharp, focused chime of warning and awe. Jax, the pressure is immense. You are pulling the weight of the between into your own spirit. Hold firm. If you consume the void, you must burn it completely or it will hollow you out. She didn't just watch. From miles away in the throne room, Lilith closed her eyes. She reached out through the bond, her shadows acting as protective sleeve around Jax's soul. She provided a container for the chaotic energy he was devouring, helping him stabilize the volatile essence of the void as it was converted into light. The distortion let out a final, silent pulse, a metaphysical death rattle, before it was completely sucked into the center of Jax's vortex. The sky, which had been warped and gray, snapped back into place with the sound of a thunderclap. The entity was gone. Jax stood alone in the desert, his armor pulsing with an erratic, violet-tinged light as he processed a massive influx of energy. The air was perfectly still, and for a mile around him, the sand had been turned into a perfectly smooth, clear pane of glass by the sheer intensity of the vortex. Jax! Lilith's thought was soft, reaching out tentatively. It is gone. The boundary is sealed. Are you whole? You have to let it go. Inside me, I have a plan to transfer the energy to restore the land and magics of this world. Through the bond, Lilith felt the immense, turbulent pressure of the void energy swirling within Jax. She hesitated for a fraction of a second, her protective instincts screaming at her to keep it contained, to shield his soul from the corruptive chill of the nothingness. But she trusted him. She trusted the warmth of his forge and the strength of his will. "I trust you, my son," she projected, her voice soft but resolute. "I am letting go. Take the energy, shape it, and let it breathe life into this world." Slowly, carefully, Lilith withdrew the constricting sleeve of her shadows, allowing the raw, volatile power Jax had absorbed to settle fully into his core. Within Jax, the chaotic, dark energy of the void met the absolute, creative heat of his primordial fire. The void energy resisted, tried to eat away at his spirit, but Jax began to refine it. Using his body as a crucible, he melted down the destructive essence of the boundary feeder, stripping away its hunger and converting it into a pure, concentrated essence of raw world magic, a revitalizing current of emerald, sapphire, and gold. Jax raised his hands and slammed them down into the newly created glass sands beneath his feet. A shockwave of warm, shimmering light erupted from his palms, sinking deep into the earth. The energy didn't destroy. It flowed through the veins of the planet, like blood returning to a cold limb. Far below the surface, the dry, strained aquifers of the quartz plain suddenly surged, filled to the brim with pure, clean water generated from the converted magical mass. The ley lines of the land of glass, which had been trembling and thin, flared with a vibrant, steady pulse of power. In the north, the creeping, unnatural frost dissipated, replaced by a balanced, stable climate. Even the air of the citadel grew richer, humming with protective war that felt thicker and more secure than ever before. As the last of the energy left his body and sank into the world, Jax exhaled a breath of pure steam. His armor returned to its steady, comfortable blue-green glow. The desert around him was quiet, peaceful, and now deeply saturated with life-giving magic. Through the link, Lilith let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding, her thoughts filled with relief and profound wonder. "You did it," she whispered in his mind. "The land, it's breathing. I can feel the water flowing, and the borders are secure. You truly are the pillar of this world, Jax. Come back to me. The citadel is waiting for its king, and I am waiting for my husband." Jax, the first ever, just collapses, then his armor fades away, as so does his consciousness, his last thoughts being of Lilith and his people. Through the mental bond, the blazing, comforting heat of Jax's presence didn't just dim. It abruptly vanished, leaving a cold, terrifying silence in Lilith's mind. Her heart seized. In the throne room, she gasped aloud, her hand flying to her chest as her crimson eyes widened in sheer panic. The administrators and generals stopped mid-sentence, sensing the sudden spike of absolute dread radiating from their queen. "Jax," she whispered, her voice trembling. Before anyone could ask what was wrong, Lilith didn't just step into shadows. She tore through space with desperate, frantic force. The fabric of reality groaned as she vanished from the palace, reappearing in a flash of obsidian and starlight on the newly formed glass plateau. The sight before her made her breath catch in her throat. Jax lay silent on the smooth, clear glass. The formidable, blazing armor that had shielded him from the world was completely gone, leaving him as a vulnerable man, utterly exhausted from bending the void to his will. "Jax!" Lilith dropped to her knees beside him, her royal composure completely fracturing. She gathered his limp form into her arms, pulling his head onto her lap, her 6 magnificent starlit wings wrapped tightly around them both, creating a protective, warm sanctuary against the open desert air. With trembling fingers, she brushed his hair away from his face, her touch incredibly gentle. She pressed her forehead against his, desperately pouring her own primordial energy into him, trying to spark the embers of his fading consciousness. Through their bond, she didn't find his thoughts, only a deep, quiet sleep filled with a faint, lingering warmth of his love for her and his people. "Please, my son, open your eyes," she pleaded into the quiet of his mind, her thoughts thick with tears she rarely shed. "You gave everything to heal this land. You saved us. But I do not care about the sky or the borders if you are not here to share them with me. Wake up, my king. Wake up, my love." He was breathing, his heartbeat slow but steady, the deep, restorative slumber of a god who had exhausted every drop of his power. Relief washed over her, so intense it made her weak. He was alive. He had simply given everything to Forge, and now he needed to rest. Gently, Lilith slid her arms beneath him, lifting him against her chest. With a soft, quiet rustle of her dark wings, she stepped back into the shadows, carrying her sleeping king back to the safety of their private chambers, where she would watch over him until the fire in his soul blazed bright once more.